I think this is going to be, as you guys have said before in the podcast, bigger than Industrial Revolution. But it's also true that you need to have a good ROIC. And if you don't, and you're not transparent about it, you can see what happens.
No, I would argue Google's probably been the most frugal, thoughtful, and well-managed computing infrastructure investor of all time. The 98 to 2005 era at Google, it was all about just cheap throwaway racks. That was the big advantage they had, is they weren't using the expensive Oracle servers. And they had a 2 to 3 year kind of depreciation timeline on those, but they were super cheap. And so the ROIC was quite good. Then they got into energy efficiency, which they realized was a big driving cost. They started to build systems that were more energy efficient. As a result, they lasted longer. And then their depreciation schedule moved up to 3 to 4 years, meaning they could kind of write down the value of the servers over 3 to 4 years. And then from 2010 to 2015 era, their hardware system for cloud allowed them to kind of extend through repurposing the utilization, and they increased their depreciation to 4 to 5 years. And then in 2021, I don't know if you guys remember this, they made this kind of big change to their depreciation schedule on data center infrastructure to 6 years. So when they invest CapEx in a data center, they would write down the servers over a 6-year cycle because of AI optimization on maintenance. So they started using AI just for internal management of the infrastructure. So I would view the $75 billion CapEx actually as a very positive signal for the company. I think that it means that they have a really strong line of sight on how they're going to have full utilization and great return on this. If you do the math, ROIC math on this, $75 billion, assume a 20% ROIC, you've got to be generating, call it roughly an incremental $15 billion of profit a year, plus the amortization of the $75 billion. So take the $75 billion divided by 6, that's $12 billion plus $15 billion. So basically, they would need to make an incremental $27 billion of operating profit a year on the $75 billion for this to meet their ROIC performance. That doesn't seem crazy because that's just under 20% of their annual operating profit. This is a very kind of, I think, important point, which is Google doesn't just do this to build out AI in the future. They have a really strong line of sight on how this can kind of increment, and you don't have a huge hurdle for them for this to pay back. So I don't know. I would kind of, to Antonio's point, I'd view this as a positive. I think if you use their historical ability to manage infrastructure and make predictions on investments as an indicator of the future, this is a strong and positive indicator.